Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. When is the last time that you actually looked under the hood? Not the hood of your business, not your finances. I'm talking about you specifically, your body. The machine that is you, the thing that everything else depends on. Here's what I have learned over the years and especially as of late. And it probably took me a little longer, believe it or not, than it should have to actually learn it. You cannot manage what you don't measure. Now, we've probably all heard that phrase before. You cannot manage what you don't measure. But when I used to hear that phrase or think about that phrase, of course I thought about revenue. I thought about tracking expenses. I started thinking about conversion rates. But I think for most entrepreneurs, we have no idea what's actually happening inside our own bodies. And so today is my attempt to maybe change that for you. Because just recently I got my blood work done, my labs done. And I want to walk you through what I found, which is a pretty personal conversation, but I guess I'm going to share it with a few friends, and tell you a little bit about what it means and why I think all of us here at the No Days Off Nation should be getting the same sort of testing. So let me back up here for a second. A handful of years ago, I don't know, it was probably actually I bet it was 10 years ago. While I was always working out and I've always been training and I've been a pretty healthy eater and all of that, um, I just did the things that I thought would work and I stayed active. But I think about 10 years ago, I started to get even more serious around my health. Maybe it was, actually, I shouldn't say maybe, I bet it was just my age, right? I'm 47. So 10 years ago, 37, maybe I started feeling something at that time. As a matter of fact, I did. Is my back was fired up and started kind of questioning how healthy I really was. And I realized at that time that I was trying to track my health without turning to data first, which is funny because in business, I always turn to data, but I didn't turn to my personal data, like the real data around my health, what's happening at a biological level. And so years back, I decided to go get my blood drawn. And now fast forward through today, the past year, I've been using something called Function Health. I think I've talked about it here before, just a company that I think runs a great program. Still got to go somewhere to get my labs done, but all the results come to my phone. And it's a pretty comprehensive deep dive. I mean, I think it's 100, maybe 90 to 100 biomarkers, hormones, metabolic health, cardiovascular risk, inflammation, all sorts of things. Things your standard annual physical doesn't usually come close to covering. And I've been using that for a while. And then the past month, and now I'll continue with this, I've been using a company called Rhythm that sends a kit to my house. And I test every month now. It lets me test from home. So I could track how things are really trending over time. Now, Function is far deeper in analysis, and I'll probably do it, maybe a time or two a year. But Rhythm, much less in terms of the amount of biomarkers, but it hits the core ones, and I will be doing that every month. Now, I'm doing this because it's the data. It's like tracking your phone calls if you're in sales. It's like tracking, the numbers on your income statement. I've learned a lot from doing this. And it's that data that's telling a story about my body. And from that, I could then make decisions. So let me share some of what I found with my most recent results. And I want to be clear, goes without saying, I think you know this, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to prescribe anything, sell you on anything. I am just an entrepreneur like you who decided to take this stuff seriously. And I want to show you what it looks like in practice. I have some good things and I have some not so good things. So I want to talk to you or show you what it looks like in practice. Let's start with the good news first for me. This is how I would analyze this sort of thing. So the good news is my heart health markers are strong. I have from Rhythm all different sorts of reads on my cholesterol. HDL cholesterol, which is the protective kind of cholesterol, is sitting at 62.9. Triglycerides, the HDL ratio is at a 1.04. What all this stuff means, specifically triglycerides to HDL, it's one of the better predictors of metabolic and cardiovascular health. Mine is really, really low. That's a great thing. Next, my inflammation markers, the type of inflammation I have in my body, is actually pretty low as well. And I say actually because the amount of training that I do, I think I'm constantly dealing with levels of inflammation in my body. And so I sometimes I'm surprised to see it as low, but they all showed up pretty low. Now, these are the numbers that are telling me that my engine is running pretty clean. And I certainly don't say that to brag. I say it because, a handful of years ago, I'm not sure these numbers look quite like this. But I incorporated certain habits and certain things, and those habits compound. And the data is telling me, hey, this stuff's all trending in the right direction. Here's where it gets interesting though, because not everything that I tested is a positive or a green light. My testosterone levels came in, and for the guys that test this, you'll know what I mean. And for the women, my testosterone levels are in the mid 400s. Actually, 473 is what the most recent test came in at. And that is technically within the normal range. But here's what I've personally learned. Normal and optimal are not the same thing. When you factor in something called SHBG, which is a protein that binds to testosterone and it makes it unavailable to the body, mine was elevated enough that it's reducing how much testosterone I actually have access to. And my testosterone is going to impact my energy and my focus and my drive. And for everything that matters when you're running a business and you're trying to show up your best every single day, my testosterone levels matter. Now, I'm not going to go through the steps necessarily I'm going to take to try to increase that. But bottom line is, I wouldn't have known that I'm at this level that is subpar for me. I wouldn't have known this just based on how I felt. Because I actually feel fine. I feel great. Now, maybe I'm just conditioned to this. I don't really know. But I couldn't have just based this on how I felt. The data showed me something my body wasn't saying out loud. And that's the whole point here. My vitamin D came in at 40.9. Now, that may sound fine, and by standard lab ranges, it is, but I spend an awful lot of time outside. And I live in Arizona, and I take a vitamin D supplement, and yet I'm still in the very mid range. And I think most physicians who focus on longevity and performance, they're going to want to see a number that's 50% to 100% higher than that. And mine, surprisingly, was lower than I anticipated. Vitamin D affects mood and energy and immune function. And so mine has room to improve. And I think it's a relatively simple fix. But again, I wouldn't have known that was a challenge for me had I not tested. Here's the bigger point I think I want to make to everybody here today. We live in this era where there is just so much information available. The technology exists. You can get a pretty comprehensive picture of your biological health for less than you'd spend on some dinners I know some of you go to. And yet, so many entrepreneurs walk around completely blind to what's happening inside their own body. They are running on willpower and caffeine, maybe even some nicotine. And they're wondering why their energy tends to crash in the early afternoon, why they can't focus the way they used to, why recovering from certain things takes way longer than it did just 5 years ago. I'll tell you what, the answer is probably in the data. but you have to go get that data. So this is clearly a a very strong call to action for those of you that are not testing, and for those of you that do, I'd ask, is it the right frequency, and what are you doing with those results? I want to talk about why entrepreneurs specifically resist this, though. I think there's two reasons. The first is just time. I'm busy. I'll get to it. No surprise what I'm about to ask you next. If one of your key business systems was underperforming in your world, would you wait? Would you say, hey, I'll look at that eventually? Hey, of course you would not. You'd want to know immediately. And so why do we treat our own biology any differently? I think the second reason entrepreneurs don't take action is fear. Some people just don't want to know because knowing means you might have to change something. And I can understand that. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather know at 47 years old than find out at 57 years old when the options are a lot more limited with respect to how I'm going to treat myself. The data, in essence, is not the end game. It's not the verdict. The data actually becomes the starting point for many of us. So here's what I want you to do. If you believe in what I'm saying, and I shared a lot of my numbers with you again, just to show you that, hey, I've got some really good things going on internally, and I have some not so good things. And I don't know if I'm a health nut, but I certainly do a lot of things to try to be as healthy as humanly possible. And I still have things that have real big opportunities for improvement. So your call to action today, and I want you to actually do it, is book the lab work. If you want a comprehensive starting point, maybe look at function health. I think it's the most thorough baseline that I've found. If you want to track things at home, though, and have some sort of private testing and do it on an ongoing basis, take a look at a company called Rhythm, RYTHM. Both are tools that I've used personally. I think both are really worth it. So step one, go do that. Step two, don't just get the results, understand them. Understand them. Find a physician, ideally one who focuses on performance or longevity, and then sit with that person and let them explain the numbers to you. I actually think there's probably a lot of great AI, be it Claude, ChatGPT, or anything else that can give you, a decent reading, though I wouldn't 100% rely on it. But if you upload your results, you might get some decent information there too. This is not just if you're in the normal range. I don't think that's necessarily what we're just looking for. I think we're also trying to see, like, are you optimized? Or if you're below normal, what do we have to do to get you there? So, to wrap this up, the objective here isn't to just feel better. I think the objective is to perform better. And I think it's to make better decisions and show up better for your business, for your family, for everybody that's important to you. Show up more consistently. And perform, I think, at the level that you truly aspire to perform at. That's all I have for you today. The No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.